Hello everyone, welcome to Resistance After Work. My name is RK and today I cannot resist myself diving into the dark depths of the Penguin series. This show has captivated us with dark storytelling and complex characters, particularly Oswald Cobb aka the Penguin. So let's unpack the layer of this gripping season together. Overview. From the very first episode, we are in the middle of the chaotic world of Gotham, where Oswald Cobb is navigating his rise to power in the middle of betrayal and violence. Colin Farrell delivers a phenomenal performance, bringing depth to a character who is both a victim of his circumstances and a master manipulator. This series carefully weaves flashback with the current timeline, allowing us to explore not just Oz's ambition but also the root of his monstrous persona, Oz's backstory, and nature versus nurture. When we start the show, we might see Oz's mother, Mrs. Francis Cobb, as the monster that shaped him. However, through flashbacks, we come to understand that she is also a victim in the creation of Oz. This introduces a compelling argument of nature versus nurture. Was Oz born a master, or did his environment shape him into one? It took things too far as a child, and that's where his path diverged from others. Francis plays her role in enabling Oz to become the monster he ultimately becomes. Until we see this flashback, it's easy to blame her for his actions. But as we learn more about her struggles and losses, including the death of her two children, we realize she is just another victim in growing kill count. By the end of the season, she has the worst fate of any character on the show. She finds herself trapped in a penthouse, but a prison on top of the city with a beautiful view, just as was promised, highlighting her tragic fate. Now let's talk about the Victor, who serves as Oz's faithful ally throughout much of the season. Initially portrayed as naive and eager to prove himself, Victor's character arc is both tragic and emotional. He dreams of rising above his circumstances but remain attached to Oz out of loyalty. In episode 3, despite having opportunity to leave Oz behind, he chooses to stay, demonstrating his unwavering faith in their bond. Victor's evolution from a rookie to someone trying to convince gang heads to support Oz is remarkable. There is an emotional weight to his journey. You can't help but feel for him when he says, "I just wanted to be someone who mattered." His loyalty ultimately leads him to a dark path. Remember, his first words to Oz were desperate plea for his life, repeating please multiple times as he begged not to be killed. Tragically, his last words echoed the same sentiment as he again pleaded for mercy in his final moments, highlighting the heartbreaking cycle of loyalty and betrayal between them. This power contrast underscores the emotional weight of their relationship and the tragic turn of events that leads to the Victor death, an act that shocked me and underscores the brutal reality of Oz. Sophia's journey. Sophia Falcon's storyline is equally rich and tragic. Initially, her bond with Alberto serves as her only source of support, and his death leaves a profound void in her life, intensifying her feelings of isolation and betrayal. Despite her small stature, she embodies unpredictability. We see grappling her with own demons, dealing with her father's legacy, surviving Arkham, and ultimately confronting betrayals from those she trusted. In one emotional scene where she visits her parents' tomb, it's there we witness her vulnerability just side by side against her fierce ambition. Sophia attempts to manipulate Oz emotionally during their family therapy interrogation session. She knows how much he loves his mother and uses that against him in an attempt to break him down. Sophia also tries to negotiate with other gang leaders by offering them the keys to the kingdom if they return Oz over her. While many buy this idea, it's telling that the lieutenants remain loyal to Oz as a reflection of the Victor's earlier speech about loyalty and ambition within their ranks. Later on, Sophia burned down the house and also takes a noticeable amount of time lingering on the watch that she bought for her father on his birthday right before she went to Arkham. Later she goes to airport and got betrayed again, and then she goes for a drive with Oz before he sets her up and she gets arrested. I think this is a great sequence. I love everything about this. I love the callback to Oz going to drive her back to getting arrested again the second time. Everything about that felt very poetic. I don't know about you. No matter how messed up Sophia is, I think I just feel so bad for her. She just keep getting the raw end of the deal. The complexity of relationships. Oz's relationship with his mother adds another layer of complexity. Frances is not just a background character. She embodies the emotional turmoil that drives Oz. During the family therapy interrogation session, where Sophia was playing a game trying to make Oz go through this agony, she knows that he loves his mom so much that he lied about her being dead to protect her. She knew like this is his weak spot. If she can get Oz to confess his mom, then his mom will, presumably have some sort of moment of disowning him or betraying him. And I think that she was banking on to watch that relationship crumble in front of him. She was trying to destroy his world completely. There is something else that really interesting because Penguin would break, he won't say it. And then he gets to a point where his mom comes out and contemplates having Rex kill Oz, but ultimately decide against it. But there is a moment where Sophia kind turn to Oz and say, perhaps Oz doesn't actually care about the people he think he care about, or he says he care about. It raises question about his psyche. This scene really doesn't seem as important until later when he kills Victor. Betrayal and Villainy. What makes the Penguin series particularly compelling is its refusal to turn Oswald into an anti-hero. Instead, it embraces his villain fully. We root for him because he's scrappy and clever, crawling inch by inch towards power, but killing off his own flesh and blood. How can I root for someone like that in any capacity? Wasn't it just too awful? We have villains over the years, but they always had a code. They drew lines somewhere, but when Oz killed Victor, because he didn't want the emotional liability. Think about it. Oz kept his own mother alive barely, but Victor ended up meaning him so much he killed him with his bare hands. He had not killed anyone with his bare hands before. He really liked that up close and personal. This act signifies a profound shift. He goes from killing someone who disrespected him, thought nothing of him, to murdering someone who idolized him, who loved him, who he loved. It recalls the fable of the scorpion and the frog. No matter how much help you offer or how sincere you may seem, one's true nature will always prevail. This lesson resonates throughout the season. Oz will do whatever it takes to climb to the top without any special treatment for those who believe in him. He barrels right through Sophia multiple times. The only reason she remains alive by the season end is that he needs her as a scapegoat, giving her a fate worse than death by putting her back in Arkham. Gotham law enforcement absence. A surprising aspect throughout this season is Batman's absence between all this chaos. A new drug floods Gotham streets, while Sophia wipes out the entire Falcon family and Oswald takes out the Maroni crew. The city faces explosion and turmoil, yet only at the very end does the bat signal finally flicker on. Matt Reeves, the director and the executive producer of The Penguin, explained this absence during an interview with Digital Spy. He noted that this story takes place during the significant turmoil in Gotham City, specifically just after the Batman. Reeves stated, "This was a time of the great turmoil in the city. Much of the city is in desperation, so police can't get everywhere. There is a crime everywhere. It's a very dangerous time." He elaborated that Batman is preoccupied with dealing with the aftermath of the recent events caused by Riddler's action. He feels responsible for what has happened and focuses on grappling with these consequences rather than intervening in ongoing criminal activities led by the characters like Oswald Cobb. But the question still arises, where are Gordon and other law enforcement figures during all this? It raises question about their roles or the lack thereof in maintaining the order in Gotham between all such upheavals. Some of the mishits. Carmine Falcon treasure. The true treasure left behind the Carmine Falcon is the valuable information that Oswald Cobb uses throughout the season to fuel his rise to power. From manipulating councilmen to exploiting Johnny's affair. This clever writing adds depth to the narrative, but it feels like a missed opportunity that the show didn't have more callbacks to this crucial plot point. Many viewers might have overlooked its significance, and a few reminders could have enhanced the storytelling by highlighting how this information strategically impacts Oz's accent in Gotham criminal landscape. Second is the Sophia torture of Oz. At the end of the episode 1, Sophia tortured Oz by cutting into his arm with a wire, leaving him bleeding and in agony. While this scene effectively establishes the character's vulnerability, it becomes unrealistic as the series progresses. After such a painful event, Oz never seems to struggle with the pain or deal with the aftermath of his injury throughout the rest of the season. The lack of the continuity undermines the impact of that tension or intense moment, making it hard for me to believe in such consequences of violence. The drug bliss and its implication. Throughout the series, we learned that Sophia was in Arkham for 10 years, and during the first 6 months there, she was subjected to the red drug known as bliss. Given Gotham's rampant corruption, from the doctors to the authorities at Arkham and to the politicians and the police as well, it raises a serious question about why this revolutionary drug wasn't exploited more widely. With Carmine Falcon's influence, one would accept him to capitalize on such a potent substance to gain a monopoly over his competitors like Maroni. Ultimately, with so many drug gangs operating in Gotham and corrupt officials turning a blind eye, it seems implausible that such a game-changing drug could go unnoticed or unutilized in the criminal underworld. Another noticeable inconsistency arises during the Sophia's torture of Johnny Vitti, where she ties him up with metal belts and submerges him in cold ice water for an entire night. This brutal act is meant to instill fear and demonstrate her ruthless nature. However, when we see Johnny the next morning, there is no visible sign of torture or suffering, no shivering from hypothermia, no signs of frostbite, and he appears unremarkably unharmed despite spending hours in such extreme conditions. The absence of any physical or the emotional repercussions from this ordeal feels unrealistic and undermines the severity of Sophia's action. This inconsistency highlights missed opportunities of character development and realism within the narrative, ultimately detracing from the overall impact of the show for me. Before we wrap up, let's take a moment to appreciate the world building of Gotham in The Penguin. The cinematography does an incredible job of capturing the city's grim atmosphere, immersing viewers in its dark, gritty streets that reflect the chaos and corruption permeating every corner. The visuals are striking, with the moody palette that enhance the sense of danger lurking around every alleyway. The details of its landscape, from its crumbling buildings to the flickering neon lights that hint at the underbelly of the crime. This visual contributes to a sense of place that feels alive and oppressive, making Gotham itself a character in the story. As we wrap up this discussion on The Penguin, it's clear that the series delivers a rich narrative filled with betrayal, ambition, and the complex character dynamics. The writing clearly intervenes themes of loyalty and morality while exploring how much each character navigates their dark paths. So what do you think? Did you find yourself rooting for Oz or sympathizing with Victor? And what about Sophia? Personally, I have to say that I really hate Oz. His transformation into a cold-blooded killer, particularly when he murders Victor, someone who idolized him, was shocking and left me feeling disgusted. I would love to see him getting his ass beat in the Batman 2. Whether it's Batman delivering the final blow or the Sophia taking her revenge, I want to see Oz face the consequences of his action. It would be so satisfying to watch him get beaten down after all the pain he's caused. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy this content, I hope you did. And remember, don't resist yourself from doing what you love. Like the video and subscribe to Resistance After Work for more discussion on your favorite TV shows and movies. We will meet again. Goodbye.